Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello my friends, we of Group 9 are presenting the linguistic matter of sociolinguistics. Group 9 consists of Suherni, Yana Amalia, and Siti Amelia Lailatul Mukarramah. Happy watching! Background of study. People and language are inseparable. They have a connection where people can be formed by the language they speak. Likewise, the language spoken in the community may be used to adapt the members' interactions. One opinion suggests that each individual has a communicative ability determined by society. In other words, the society itself is an assembly of all communication and action individuals. This assembly is known by the language society. To understand that, then we need a careful study of relationships between language and people. The discipline of the study is sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics is a study that learns language in relation to the use of language in society.
My name is Suherni and I want to explain about what is sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics derive from the word socio and ambiguous. Socio equal words. Social is community related. Linguistic is the study of and speak of language, particularly of the elements of language and between those elements. Sociolinguistics is a study that sets out theories on public relations with language. Based on previous nations, sociolinguistics also studied and discussed aspects of the common language, especially differences found in language related to social factors. Sociology seeks to know how the society is happening, going on, and surviving. By studying institutions, social process, and all social problems in society, it will become known how humans adapt to their environment, how they socialize, and how they put themselves in their place in society. Thus, it can be said that sociolinguistics is a field of interdiscipline that learns language in relation to its use in society. Okay, for the next explanation is sociolinguistic concept. Communication ethnography. Ethnography is a cultural anthropological term, which is written on the basis of observation into a particular national society culture. Hymas in Hasuichi, the following are the elements of ethnography. The ethnographic elements, the background or the setting, is the time and place where the conversation takes place. Participants are those who are actively involved in the conversation. And or ending is that the found goal is to be reached by participants in the ongoing conversation. The genesis sequence is the origin and content of ongoing conversations, the manner of conversation going on, and the relationship of what is being discussed. The step, referring to the intonation, attitude, and kind such as serious conversation, small talk, and etc. Media, conversational delivery such as oral, written, and so forth. Norm, interactions, and interpretation referring to things like big sounds, looks, and so forth as the Norms of society. Type of genre is a form of expression of a conversation like poetry, puzzles, prayers, lectures, and the other. The concept of communication studied in Takaoka said that at the time we would have communication, we have to observe how the messenger relates to the speakers. The speaker is the one who will deliver the message, whereas speech is the one who receives or hears the message of the speaker. And they wish to argue that men, when about to deliver a message before they speak, they should speculate on what to do with the person. We have to forget the act of self-communication and the person to talk to. They combine the capacities such as responding to ad hoc.
Next will be explained by me, Siti Amelia Lailatul Mukarramah. Subfields and branches of sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics includes some branches. They are anthropological linguistics. It is a closely related field. Some say exactly the same field. Anthropological linguistics, investigating the relationship between language and culture from a linguistic perspective. According to some, this is a branch of linguistics. It may differ from linguistic anthropology in that linguists will focus more on the way words are formed. For example, phonology or vocalization of language for semantics and grammar systems. The next is dialectology. Dialectology is the subfield of sociolinguistics that studies linguistic dialects. This field examines language variation based on geographic distribution and covers topics such as the branching of two local dialects of the same parent language and synchronous variations. Then dialectology examines the elements of grammar, lexicon, and phonology associated with a particular area. Discourse analysis. Discourse analysis is a study that examines or analyzes language used naturally, both in written and spoken form towards users as an element of society. And this discourse analysis deals with the content of communication messages, some of which are in the form of text, speeches, transcripts of sessions or debates in forums, parliamentary sessions, articles published in newspapers, books like essays, novels, and romances, as well as election campaign advertisements. Ethnography speaking. Communication ethnography is a study of the communication patterns of a cultural community. In macro terms, this study is part of ethnography. Communication ethnography is the study of the life and culture of a community or ethnic group. For example, customs, habits, law, art, religion, and/or language. The next is geolinguistics. Geolinguistics has been identified by some as a branch of linguistics and by others as a branch of linguistic geography, which is further defined as a branch of human geography. When viewed as a branch of linguistics, geolinguistics can be viewed from a linguistic perspective, something with research implications. One academic tradition that deals with geolinguistics as a branch of linguistics provides open recognition of the role mapmaking can play in linguistic research by looking at the terms dialect geography. Linguistic geography as synonymous with geolinguistics. Language contact study. Language contact occurs when speakers of two or more languages or references influence each other. The study of language contact is called contact linguistics. When speakers of different languages depend on, usually their languages influence each other. Language contact can occur across language boundaries between a stratum languages or as a result of experiments with intrusive languages acting as the superstratum or substratum. Secular linguistics. The secular linguistics may enter into the perspective of the discipline of linguistics, which is the secular perspective, with three broad aspects of research, which include language form, language meaning, and language in context. The social psychology of language. Social psychology is the study of the relationship between humans and groups. Experts in this interdisciplinary field are generally psychologists or sociologists. Although all social psychologists use both individuals and groups as their units of analysis. And the last is sociology of language. The sociology of language is the study of the relationship between language and society. This science is closely related to the field of sociolinguistics, which focuses on the influence of society on language. For the first, society is the object of study, while for the second, language is the object of study. Then in sociolinguistic problems, there are 7 dimensions of issues in sociolinguistics according to the first sociolinguistic conference at the University of California in Los Angeles. The first is the social identity of the speaker. It can be seen from what questions and who the speakers are and how they relate to the other person. The speaker's identity can be in the form of family members like father, mother, brother, sister, uncle, can be close friends, superiors or subordinates at work, teachers, students, neighbors, officials, elders, and so on. The identity of the speaker can affect the choice of good in speech. The second is the social identity of the listener involved in the communication. The social identity of the listeners must of course be seen on the part of the speaker. The listener's identity can be in the form of family members, like father, mother, younger sibling, brother, uncle, close friends, teachers, students, neighbors, officials, elders, and so on. The identity of the listener or listeners will also affect the choice of good in speech. The third is the social environment in which the speech process occurs. This can be a family room in a household, in a mosque, on a soccer field, in a lecture hall, in a library, or on a roadside. The place where speech events occur can also affect the choice of code and style in speech. For example, in the library room, of course, we have to speak in a soft voice. On the soccer field, we can speak loud. Even in a noisy room with the sound of machines, we have to speak loudly because if it's not loud, the other person cannot hear us. The next is synchronic and diachronic analysis of social dialects. In the form of descriptions of the patterns of social dialects, both those prevailing at a certain time or those that are valid for an unlimited period. The social dialect is used by speakers in connection with their position as members of certain social classes in society. Next is different social judgments by speakers of speech forms behavior. That is, every speaker must have a certain social class in society. This, based on his social class, he has his own judgment, which is of course the same, or if different, will not be too far from his social class, regarding the forms of speech behavior that take place. The next is the level of linguistic variation and variety, and due to the heterogeneity of the members of a speech community, the various social and political functions of language and the level of perfection of the code, the human means of communication called language varies greatly. Each of these variations, whether called dialect varieties or variants, has its own social function. The last is practical applications of sociolinguistic research. Topics that discuss the usefulness of sociolinguistic research to solve practical problems in society. For example, problems of language teaching, language standardization, translation, overcoming social conflicts due to language conflicts, and so on. Language contact occurs when two or more languages or varieties interact. The study of language contact is called linguistic contact. Forms of influence from one language to another include: the first is vocabulary borrowing. This means that the most common way languages influence one another is by word exchange. The second is adoption of other language features. Their influence can go deeper, extending to the exchange of basic characteristics of language such as morphology and grammar. The third is language shift, that is, the result of bilingual contact can be substituted one by one. Superstratum under substratum. The next is strata influence. When people retain features of the substratum as they learn a new language and pass these features on to their children, leading to the development of new varieties. The last is pidginization and creolization. Means people who do not have a common language to interact with develop pidgin, which in turn can become the original language. The benefits for us in studying sociolinguistics are: Fishman formulates that what is at issue in sociolinguistics is who speak, what language, to whom, when, and to what end. From Fishman's formula, we can describe the benefits or uses of sociolinguistics for practical life is: sociolinguistic knowledge can be used in communicating or interacting, because sociolinguistics provides guidelines for us in communicating by showing what language, variety of language, or language style we should use if we talk to certain people. The second is, sociolinguistics will also show how we should speak when we are in a mosque, in a library room, in a park, in a market, or also on a soccer field, because every place has rules in speaking. The third is, in teaching language in schools, sociolinguistics also has a big role. Internal language studies will produce language descriptions objectively descriptive in the form of a grammar book. If the internal study is carried out descriptively, it will produce a descriptive grammar. If the study is carried out normatively, it will produce a normative grammar book. And the last is, in multilingual countries such as Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, India, and the Philippines, political problems arise in connection with the choice of language for the purpose of carrying out state administration and nation building. Choosing which language should be used as the official state language can create political tension and possibly lead to physical clashes. Indonesia seems to be able to solve the problem of choosing the national language, state language, and official language well, namely by choosing the Malay language, which historically has become the lingua franca and has been widespread throughout the archipelago, although the number of native speakers is far less than those who speak the language, Sundanese or Javanese area.
Okay, the next explanation will be explained by me, Yana Amalia. It's about sociolinguistic methods. In sociolinguistic, the methods used are linguistic and sociological methods. Linguistic methods are used to describe forms language and its elements with phonetic or phonemic signs notation. Meanwhile, sociological methods commonly used in collecting data such as observation, questionnaires, and interviews. The analysis can use statistical method to obtain general patterns of action practice language. The object of sociolinguistic study can be researched based on three steps. There are providing data, analyzing data, and presenting the results of the analysis. There is a principle that must be remembered in the context of sociolinguistic research, namely that the external aspects of language are very significant to explain or be explained by the language itself. That is, the basic concept of sociolinguistic studies is the concept of correlation. What researchers do in this field is to correlate language with the social and cultural aspects of society. In sociolinguistic studies, it is clear that language must be examined as it is. Therefore, the material or linguistic data obtained must be natural, not contrived. There are two methods of providing data, namely the observation method and the interview method. The observation method is a research method that is carried out by observing the object of study in its context. For example, if a researcher examines the use of a proverb, then he must collect the proverb together with other accompanying text, the users of the proverb, as well as other nonverbal elements underlying it, including preconditioned elements or social and cultural aspects. The use of the method of observation with the text material as a reference is called library research, while the method of observation with text material with a broader context is called field research. And the second method, namely the interview method, is a method of providing data by means of direct questions and answers between researchers and informants. Furthermore, the method of analysis in this sociolinguistic study can be classified into two types. First, the correlation method, which is a method related to externally correlating language objects with non-language elements. And second, the distribution method, which is the method related to the internal division, processing, or classification of verbal text. The correlation method is a method of analysis that explains the object of study in relation to the context of the situation or socio-cultural context. The distribution method is a method of analysis that describes the substantial elements of the object of study and distributes them with other verbal elements to obtain patterns. The rules relate to the context of the situation and its socio-culture. The last explanation is about factors influence variation of language use. Okay, as previously explained, that sociolinguistics is a branch of linguistics that studies the relationship between language and social aspects. There are some factors that influence variations in language use. These factors include area of origin speakers, social factor, language situation, and era of language use. So, let's discuss one by one. The first factors is about area of origin speakers. Area of origin speakers is closely related to the geographical factors where the speakers live. The presence of geographical barriers such as rivers, mountains, lakes, or barren stretches of land can serve to keep two populations separate. For example, in Indonesia, the Balinese language used by the Tigawasa people. The settlements of the Tigawasa people who are in hilly areas make them have different variations from the Balinese language used by the Buleleng people in urban areas. Such language variations are often referred to as regional dialects. In relation to this factor of speakers' region of origin, it can be concluded that one of the characteristics of human language is that speakers of the same language who live in different regions of an adjacent region do not speak the same way.
The conclusion is, based on the above discussion, it might conclude that sociolinguistics is derived from the word socio and oic, are the interdisciplinary sciences between sociology and linguistics, the two empirical fields that are closely related. Sociology is an objective and scientific study of men inside communities, institutions, and social processes that exist within society. There are two concepts in sociolinguistics: the ethnographic concept of communication and concept of communication. Moreover, in sociolinguistics, there are several branches we must know of the branch of debate to linguistics, anthropology, geolinguistics, sociology language, and so on. In sociolinguistics, there is also a possible method. The FATS, a linguistic method that examines both the language, and the sociological method that examines the social research aspect. Sociolinguistics measure against of factors affects a variety of language use.